Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at @It'sJustino. And on today's show, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit of not a celebration because we're not going to sit here and have like a party or whatever. But I thought would be interesting today is because we have reached 5,000 subscribers, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much for helping us reach that milestone. We're going to have a phone-in show, and we're about a quarter of the way through the season. I thought it would be also fun to do kind of like a quarter season review and take these 11 games plus, the Carabao Cup games and all that kind of stuff and package it all together and kind of review it. We can do a little bit of our winners and losers throughout this first quarter of the season, what's been learned and confirmed. And we'd love for you guys to get involved in the chat box. Let us know what you guys think and all of that great and wonderful stuff. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. And when I put the link in the chat box, don't be afraid to come up. If you've wanted to come on the show and have your say and talk to us about things, do not hesitate. Please come on because we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in my panel today. I have George. Hey, George.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I have Sulz. Hey, Sulz.
Hey.
And we have Harry. Yay!
Hey, what's up, guys?
Oh my gosh.
What's up?
How have you been?
Yeah, I've been good, thank you. I've been good. I've missed you guys. I'm very, very happy to be back on. Now you've let me back on. Very much appreciated.
Oh,
Yeah,
let
you were in a
back on.
timeout.
Come on now. Everybody's like, Harry, are you coming on? And like, no, I'm busy. Okay. Okay, no big deal. But yeah, so definitely a different feeling going into this international break, feeling good. I'm gonna milk it for all it's worth. That first international break, in August where Spurs had won the league and we were getting relegated. Yeah, inject it. Now we're sitting in fifth, clearly in the title race, you know what I mean? So we should enjoy this as much as possible. And I've seen that there's kind of like this desperation from rivals to get us to be quiet. And I saw this really interesting tweet from, I forget who said it, but it was a female Arsenal fan that was like, it's basically like if we're not depressed, they're pissed off. And they exaggerate everything that we say. Happy about a win turns into they act like they've won the league, and I feel like that's just so what it is. It's like we're too happy. So I feel like we should just be more happy and more shameless. I mean, am I wrong for feeling that way? I mean, that first international break, you would have thought that the club was folding, like literally the way that they were acting. And like, so now we get to enjoy it, but Harry, how do you feel about the turnaround? We haven't really had you on the show in a minute. So I want to get a little bit of your feelings on Mikel Arteta, the wins, how we're playing, those things.
I mean, listen, I feel wonderful. I feel really happy, which is great. I'm looking forward to watching highlights and
Let's give you a big screen moment.
Thanks. And reading articles and reading the post-match analysis and now seeing so-called experts suddenly change their mind about us, from Darren Bent to Jamie O'Hara to Sky Sports to Gary Neville to Jamie Carragher, publicly admitting that they were too hard on Arteta. They were wrong about Arteta. So it's great. I think it's slightly different for us because we speak publicly about Arsenal, right? And we take the shots, we take the fire. And when we are performing badly, we talk about Arsenal and people going at us, and we kind of have to take that personally. So now it's really hard for me not to say I told you so, and I'm doing all I can not to say I told you so, because I don't want it to become about people's personal agendas. But ultimately, like we've said many times, in the summer, even before a ball was kicked, it was Arteta out. Edu's not good enough. The players that we linked to aren't good enough. When those players signed, there were guarantees that Ben White will never make it at Arsenal, that Aaron Ramsdale will never be good for Arsenal. People were making these factual statements before these guys have even kicked a ball for us. We would come on the show quite a lot, and the people in the comments would dig us out for our positivity, for our balanced approach. And it's just shown that after 10, 11 games in, we are up there. We're where we should be. And we are going to challenge for top four. So for me, I think we can all learn something from this turnaround. And most importantly, I think we should learn that let's try to be balanced. Let's try not to have a meltdown every time we lose. And also, we have to just say that Arteta has got it like spot on. over these past 8 games. And I've heard this like, oh, well, these are the teams I expect to beat, and it's only this team, it's only that team, blah, 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 to take away from it. But at the end of the day, the reason if we make top 4 this season will be by beating only those teams. We need to make sure that we are beating Norwich and Burnley and Leicester and Watford, whoever it is. They're the games we have to win. We have to win. We can go away to Liverpool and lose. That won't stop us from making top 4. Making sure we win all of the games in between is what will get us top 4. So I feel great. I think it's a really, really good time to be an Arsenal fan. We should all be excited and as happy as we want to be, because that's our right as a supporter. So congratulations to all of my loyal, respectful, and humble Arsenal fans, because I feel like we deserve this turnaround in form.
You know what's interesting is that there's a little bit of this like, okay, so first it was, well, Aston Villa is the test. Pass that shit. Leicester is the test. Did that. Watford's a banana skin. Pass that. Now it's about Liverpool away. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I've heard some rival fans and they've made a little bit of sense. They've said like, okay, well, it'll show your progression if you're competitive in that match. So realistic rival fans, and I feel like us as well as Arsenal fans, we want to see the team go away to Liverpool and compete. We know that it's going to be a tough feat to beat them. Let's be real, they're one of the best teams in the league. But then I'm also seeing like, what's going to happen. If we lose, then it's like you haven't turned a corner. Where do we kind of find that balance between like being realistic about where we are and the fact that we actually don't need to beat Liverpool to be on the same path, and wanting a performance level? Like there has to be a little bit of balance. George, for you, like when you look at that Liverpool match where we're going, what's the bare minimum requirement in that game for us to feel like we're still moving in the right direction and to avoid the meltdown? Because I feel like it's going to come if we lose, but like we have to stay on the path in terms of like knowing that we're doing the right thing based on something specific that we see in that match.
Well, I think meltdown will happen regardless. So I think I'm gonna stave that off. But in realistic terms, we need to understand what the expectations are for us going this season. So whether you're a little bit more not negative is the wrong word, but believe that maybe top 6 to 8 is kind of our ceiling, and whether you're more maybe like me and Harry that believe top 4 is the ceiling, you don't achieve both of those goals by what you do against Liverpool away. You don't achieve those by what you do against City away. You achieve it by consistency in the league outside the top 6. We've made a career, well, Arsenal did really, on making the Champions League spots from our record outside the top 6. And I find it a little bit odd because, if anything, Mikel's record against the actual top 6 was actually an improvement in many years gone by. And so I've thought we've already proven that aspect of our team already. It was more so, can we compete against the Watfords, Leicesters, Villas on a consistent week-to-week basis? And the answer wasn't exactly yes for the entirety of the season last year. I do always recognize that Boxing Day where I feel that we've been almost consistent now, nigh on a year. But regardless, when you're looking at the season and achieving those goals, it isn't an isolated incident away at Anfield. And for me, the bare minimum that I want to see is an application, in a sense. I don't want to see us give up, whether that's a 3-1 score line or whether that's us winning, drawing, whatever the score line. I don't really care what happens at Anfield. I just want us to go there with our way of playing. Don't want to see the players capitulate, because for me, I think what upset most people about Man City earlier in the season wasn't the fact that we lost, it was the manner that we lost. And for me, that is a sign of progression. So I don't even care if it's a 3-1. If they blitz us on counterattacks, I don't care about that stuff. I just don't want to see us capitulate. And I think that's the biggest
get away
thing.
From our shape as well, George, because we talked about that against Man City and Chelsea. We lost our shape as well. It wasn't something that we could look at and actually evaluate in terms of tactics, because there was just nothing going on. And isn't that a part of it as well, just to at least recognize the team when it's playing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've shown that consistency and structure over these last 8 games. And I think it's not that it would be a regression not to see it at Anfield, because again, it is one of the best teams in the country and it's at one of the best grounds in the country. And make no mistake about it, the Liverpool that we're facing is not going to be the West Ham performance. It's not going to be, something where they're going to take us for granted. Those compactness issues that they had, I guarantee you, Fabinho back, Klopp back. He knows the impact of what it would be to face this type of Arsenal, this in-form Arsenal. And as much as people want to downplay it, people are scared. They are scared of the form and what we are doing right now. So I just believe when you face a top 6 class like that, you just want to be proud as fans of the performance, and the result is secondary to that. When you look at aspirations for top 4, top 6, again, it's consistency against those outside the top 6. That's what gets you those points. That's what gets you those goals. And an isolated incident at a very tough ground that historically we've been horrendous against, by the way, doesn't impact your journey, your trajectory. I can very much see this as a potential trough in the data point, but that doesn't mean that the trend line hasn't been positive, hasn't been linear up. So I think that's where I stand on it. I really don't care what happens at Anfield beyond that application and capitulation point.
Yeah, for sure. Because I look at that game and I'm just like, no, it's nothing like how I was going to feel about the Watford game. I just felt like that had to be a win. Then after that, we play Newcastle at home. That needs to be 3 points, and then you go to Old Trafford and you do your best there as well, because let's have it right. Even though Manchester United are going through a difficult time, they're still not an easy opponent. Then we go into another kind of group of games that are a little bit more favorable to us. So I think it's not so much about what rival fans are saying, but I do feel like it influences the fan base a lot, what rivals are saying. Some people don't use their own opinions in what they've seen. But ultimately, if we do lose a couple of games, if we do truly feel like we're moving in the right direction, a couple of losses that are supposed to come anyway, we're not going to win out the rest of our games, shouldn't induce this weird meltdown. And I just feel like people are waiting for it. And I think as a fan base, we still kind of need to keep it together. But Souls, for you, how are you feeling we're in the international break now? How are you just feeling about the team and all the positivity and stuff? Are you still kind of feeling like early days and we just kind of need to take it step by step, or are you feeling very confident in the direction that we're going?
No, I like the direction. I think even I know we're going to touch on all the interviews that have happened this week, and obviously even with Mikel Arteta and the Wenger and Dean situation as well. But even when you listen to kind of club reps and ambassadors speaking about Arsenal and the direction that we're going in, we highly criticised, and let's be honest, everyone did highly criticise the execution and the way that we executed Project Youth. We all agreed that we could have done it in a different way. We could have brought the Basumas in, we could have brought the Awards in, and we could have still kept the trajectory of under 23s and the profile of players that they brought in. But they've done phenomenally well. Like every single signing that we've made this summer have all massively improved the team and the culture, and the mentality of this team. There is no giving up in this, especially when we have most of our players fit and ready to play. Obviously, the first 3 games we had between 5 to 8 injuries or players excluded due to illnesses or external factors such as COVID as well, which massively are going to impact you. And there weren't just 8 random players. There were, most of them were first team players or players that we rely on. When you have one or two, spine players as well. Yeah, like when you have 1 or 2, you're like, okay, fair enough. You can't really give them an excuse. But when you have 8 players, it's a little bit hard to really sit there and go, well, you should be doing better. When in reality, our depth isn't great in terms of Holding coming in isn't really a Gabriel or a Pablo Marie coming in, or even Lokonga in his first game. Martinelli's only just come back into the fold of things. Liverpool, for me, we just need to be competitive. We need to stick to our morals. We need to stick to our game plan, and I'll be happy. But the minute we start to now look like we're capitulating, or even we're drastically changing things without any logical thought process, would really deteriorate the progression that we're making. Because yes, we go in with plan A, but if we then switch to plan B, which makes logical sense, for example, we're under huge amounts of pressure and they're attacking us, and we decide, okay, let's sit back in a block of 4-4-2 that we normally do, but let's hit them on the break because they're giving us an immense amount of attacking pressure which we need to sustain. That's a logical change of tactics. But if we then sit there and start going into our turtle shells like we have been doing last season, where against the big teams we don't even attack, we don't get many shots off, that's when I'll be really disappointed. But we need to be competitive. If we win, amazing. If we draw, good. If we lose, it depends on the performance and how we handle that loss, and it's how we bounce back from a loss is what I'm really intrigued to see.
I have a question for you guys. So Wait, it just went out of my head.
Oh, cool, man. What a great show this is going to be. Wow, let's carry on.
This is what you guys subscribe for, guys.
Yeah.
This is
Wait, it was
Come on.
such a good question too. Wait,
Right,
let me
well,
think.
we'll
Wait, let me
never
think.
know. We'll never know. We'll never know.
It was so good, and I was waiting for
Softened
Sulz
in
to
the
finish
ether.
because I was like, yeah, I got it. I wrote it down. That's why I wrote it down. You guys, that's why I always have this freaking notebook. All right, so hashtag I'm old. All right, so what I've been hearing from some people is that they feel like they've been in this perpetual cycle for the last 15 years or so, and that we've had many projects over that time. And this is just another one that's going to break down. And even referring back to the 22 game unbeaten streak by Emery and how that came to nothing. How do we know that this is different? How do we know that this project is different than the last couple of ones that we had? Project Youth, Emery's unbeaten run, we're at the beginning of something. So how do we know that this is different?
Well, because we've got a younger manager who's probably got more hunger than most managers. We've got someone who's more alert and understanding of the modern game, of what motivates players. And then, if you buy a car that breaks down, it doesn't mean the next car you buy is going to break down. If you have one failed marriage, doesn't mean the next marriage is going to be failed. So we always just refer to, oh, well, I've heard this before. It was broken before. Like, yeah, there's that. Or the other side is, this is going well. Let's keep it up. So we don't know, the truth is, right? We don't know. But what we do know is that we have a solid foundation in terms of defensively. We are much more capable of keeping clean sheets consistently. We have a goalkeeper who is giving us exactly what we need. And we have a manager who understands how to get the best out of these players in that system. People keep on referring to the 8th place finishes or the first 3 games of the season. I get that. But if people keep on saying Mikel Arteta finished 8th, I was like, he did finish 8th, but those players finished 8th. And hardly any of those players are now starting in the first team. So we've made huge strides forward. So I totally get there's always but we've seen this before, or we always have good form. But that's fine. We always do have good form. But now the challenge is to obviously to keep it going consistently. But I don't think we can say that we can't keep it going. I believe we can keep it going. And obviously only time will tell. And if we do lose to Liverpool, that doesn't mean that the good form stopped. It just means that we've lost to a really good side. And then we carry on going.
I don't know, just I push back a lot because people whitewash our past. When they quote the Emery days and they quote what happened during that time and the unbeaten run, there's a lot of whitewashing, the underlying metrics of that run, how most of the fan base was not supportive of the way that we
Nobody
were
felt
playing.
good about it.
Nobody felt it was sustainable. The background structure, nobody felt sure of Raul, sure of Sven. Nobody felt comfortable with the idea of having a 28 average age squad of winning now. Most people felt that we had to go through a Dortmund model. I mean, there's a lot of whitewashing that has happened. And factually, you cannot blame Mikel and Edu for the impacts of their predecessor. And the idea of you buying a car under bad credit cannot be applied to the same car purchase at a better credit. And what do I mean by that? Well, this squad has been halved in age. We've gone from legitimately one of the oldest squads in the league to the youngest squad in the league. Our background structure has gone from Sven and Raul to now Edu, and we've solidified background changes that are basically consistent. I think even Josh has made an interview, which I know is going to incite comments, but this idea of unity and the consistency in the background structure hasn't been there in the last 2 years. So for me, there's been a lot of overture from previous regimes to now that definitely signify a difference in how we're doing. In terms of Arteta, for some, the jury's going to be out regardless. For many, it won't be switched until we're basically in the top 4, or there's a clear path of 8th to 4th. You can't escape that reality. But I just think to ignore a lot of the background structure and culture changes is just absolutely ridiculous, and it does impact your performance on the pitch. This feel-good factor. We have the best home record in the league. That matters. When you look at Emery, where we had a poor home record, that matters when you look at COVID, when the home record wasn't great. So for me, I just think that it's almost like you're looking at an X and you're kind of envisioning some things about how it went a little bit different. There's a little bit of bitterness there towards Emery. There's going to be a little bit of whitewashing, whether you're positive as well in your new relationship with Arteta. But we just need to keep perspective and be honest about where we were as a club and make sure that those pillars, are being consistent in how we evaluate them. Because look, Mikel won't get the plaudits until he delivers, which I'm okay with because I'm somebody that is patient enough to see that process. But if you need a little bit more convincing, that's no problem. But I really struggle to understand the whitewashing of our past when you're discussing these things because these are some pretty big changes.
Yeah, just simply put, I think in the past, I've always said it, about 17 years of shit mentality, shit culture. And this isn't me trying to dig out Wenger or anything, because it's not even just Wenger. It was the whole back room. It was the whole ownership structure. There was no ambition. There was no involvement. We didn't even really know who our owners were. I know there was the Cronkies. I'm not sitting there and saying I don't know who their names were, but we didn't really hear from them. There was no communication. There was no direction put in the club. We either had a good defense or a good attack, but we never had a complete team. This time it seems like the focus has shifted on building a balanced team, building a balanced structure, which helps the manager. But we've made wholesome changes and COVID actually accelerated this progress, because I've always talked about it. We're doing data signings, we're doing video analytics on every player, we're building a profile, and even Arteta's spoken about this. He goes, it's one question: do you fit the system? Do you fit the Arsenal mold? If the answer is no, you're not coming. And that is the big difference. We've got a philosophy, we've got a profile, we've got certain things that need to be ticked before you become a player. It's like the Barcelona method. I've always used it as they want you to be able to do certain things. Like, you've got to be comfortable playing every position on that pitch before you can sign for Barcelona. They shifted from that under Bartomeu, but obviously Laporta and Xavi are bringing that back. It's got to be hard, determined. All you're here for is the football. Any external matters that you're here for, you're not going to be coming to this club. And I think that's a big difference. And now, obviously, well, it's more, he's still silent Stan, but it's now Josh has taken over and he's more involved in the club. Whether that's for the documentary, we'll find out next season. But it's a change of culture. We are demanding more, but we're being real with our demands. We're not going to sit here and go, yes, Arsenal are a league-winning side, so we need to win the league. If you're not, you're out. No, it's a progressional step to get back to winning the league title. And now we know the direction and the steps involved in getting back to that stage. And that's why I believe in this progress. And I think because we know this summer they've promised us 2 to 3 top signings, or world-beating, empirically going to change this 11 signings. If they don't deliver on that, then yes, this whole project falls and crumbles just like everything in the past. But I don't think they're going to do that this time.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. We don't know just yet, but I think ultimately you can't deny that there have been some changes, and they've been positive changes. So you can always sit there and be like, I want to wait a little bit longer. And that's kind of where I sit. I want to wait a little bit longer and see if it's really firmed up I want to wait until the end of the season before I get too excited, because I'm afraid to get my heart broken. That's literally just what it is. As an Arsenal fan, so much trauma, afraid to get your heart broken. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't see any progress. I think that would just be dumb, because there is some. But let's talk about winners for the season so far. I think there's been some clear winners so far, some clear losers so far. And yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys have to say, but I'll start off with there's some really obvious ones, so I'll go for somebody maybe not as obvious. I don't know, they're all kind of obvious. I think I'll go with Tomiyasu. I think I'll go with Tomiyasu just because deadline day signing, somebody that I don't think came in the mold of the type of right back that a lot of Arsenal fans were looking for. When we look for right backs, we want to see something that mimics one of the iconic right backs that either were at Arsenal, which for a lot of fans right now is Bellerin. That's kind of what they're looking at. A lot of people don't really remember Laurent, or Sané even that well, so they're looking for somebody that's going to run up and down the sideline and overlap and do those things and be really exciting. And then you have Tomiyasu come in, you're looking at him. He's more center backy. You think he's going to play the more inverted right back role. And some people weren't excited about that. On top of that, you had the media kind of piling in and saying that they didn't know what he played. Well, that's your fault. That's your fault that you didn't do your research. You're a dummy. How are you going to go on Sky Sports? It's your job, and you don't know what position the boy played. That's on you. But a lot of Arsenal fans took that as, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what his position is. And I think it's very clear that Arteta knew what kind of right back he was, and he fits it. Like, he fits it, and he's been really, really good. I think there have been some issues with, not issues, but some adaptation, getting up to speed, maybe a little bit of flaws in his technical ability, the passing and stuff like that. But this last game against Watford, that's exactly what I want to see from Tomiyasu. He's responsible defensively, but he can go forward when asked. But he's defense first, offense second, and that's fine when your left back is basically playing like a left forward. So I think Tomiyasu really does win, and he's an easy crowd favorite. He's somebody that like just steps straight in and everybody loves him. And a good he's very opposite to Bellerin. And I think that's what makes him so obvious out there, because we're so used to Bellerin being more of like that offensive guy. And Tomiyasu does something different. And he's basically just a way better version of Chambers. And I'm here for it. But Harry, what have you thought about Tomiyasu so far? What did you think about him on deadline day? And has anything changed since then?
I mean, look, I really didn't know much about him, so I didn't make any judgments on him. I've been really, really impressed. I think he comes across like quite a humble footballer. I really like his work ethic, so he slotted in really nicely. Like you say, technically, there's a few times when he looks a little bit nervous on the ball, but I think it's more nervousness than a lack of ability. I just. I just really like him, and I think if you come into the Premier League, right, and you slot in straight away, and then you are instantly having a positive effect on the team in terms of clean sheets, you're doing an incredible job. There are some big money signings this summer, defenders who have come in and have struggled, and this guy's come in and straight away has allowed us to change our system, and has just played really, really consistently well every game. And for me, that's what I want. Sometimes you just want defenders to focus on defending, and he gives us that. And obviously, he's really handy on the ball in terms of his long range passing, in terms of being both footed. So yeah, I've been really impressed with him. And sometimes it's nice just to have a player who comes in, isn't flashy, isn't on Instagram posting all these videos and him driving cars, blah blah blah. It's nice to have a no frills footballer. So a really good signing. And to anyone that doubted him, well, you were wrong.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all just at least like Tomiyasu, which is great, and I'm loving it. George, do you have a winner for you so far in the season?
Yeah, I'm not going to go player, and maybe it might make no surprise, but Mikel is my winner,
Nice.
absolutely, for the season, because when you start to look at the amount of myths that have been broken in this quarter of a season review, it starts to pile up a little bit. And I'm not as polite as Harry, so I'm a little bit of a I told you so mentality right here, because, since the start of the season, I have been in the corner. I've been constantly saying when he gets his spine, things will be different. There will be consistency, and we've got it. I said, when you look at the signings, it was very clear that his direction was Ramsdale as opposed to Edu preferring net. It was very clear that he pushed the White signing. It was very clear that a lot of his recruitment decisions got the power. He won that power struggle between him and Edu, and he's vindicated. Tomiyasu versus Emerson. And meanwhile, many people argued against it. And lastly, you look at Ainsley Maitland-Niles. For me, that story and that redemption arc essentially crushes all the myths that there's this permanent exile that Mikel can put you to if you don't agree with attitude or culture. This idea that, again, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, guys, I don't know if you understand like how significant what he did. He added the club. Like, for me, he did something a lot worse than what Guendouzi did. There had been previous run-ins in the media. It wasn't his first time, but he actually outed the club. And then after that, we've managed to see a man management, which everyone said he was incapable of doing, working a squad and a player who, by the way, was mentally inconsistent. Let's have it right. Come back into the squad, bubble, but not only bubble, but then thrive, and then come back and be a key fixture in a position everyone said he couldn't be in. And so for me, when you start to look at some of these myths that have been broken, can he go away and do consistent winning? Can he keep a philosophy? Can we stop chopping and changing? There's a lot of myths that have been broken right now in this quarter of a season. Has he been perfect? No. Has there been times where I felt that he's done the wrong decision? Absolutely. But when you start to look at the overarching direction of this club, culture-wise, when has the Emirates been this rocking for this team? I haven't seen it. Look, I haven't been there. Sulz can maybe confirm it a little bit more, but the connection that this squad has with the fans, they're far more likable. This culture, Aubameyang, everybody thought Aubameyang was finished, and not just that, his application was left to be wanting. We now have Aubameyang, the highest presser in the squad. That doesn't happen unless something has changed. And for me, the additions into the background, the idea that he's changing Colney to his own identity, he's imprinting himself into the fabric of the club while still maintaining a philosophy, getting consistent results, and let's have it right in the competition for top 4. What this run let us do was lose at Anfield. It let us have that rope to be comfortable in our own destiny. And I don't think many people were that confident in Mikel at the beginning of the season. I don't think that sway between the fans was as clear. And I do think that those of us that believed in him and believed the process were made fun of and facetiously, not by you guys, but by rivals and other people, as being deluded and ridiculous. And I just feel he's been able to smash a lot of the narratives. It's credit to him. And I do believe a lot of this change has been facilitated by him individually. And, you know, he has had to compete with a lot of external factors, a lot of people not believing in him or us. And I just believe he deserves his flowers. Granted, he'll get them when he does perform at the highest level and he achieves that success that a lot of people are saying. But look, for me, basically all of his signings have been a hit. All of his management has been a hit. And lastly, sorry, Jess, the substitutions have been distinctly different this year, and they've won us points. Crystal Palace, Watford, they've been consistently very, very good. The issue that I've had is basically his response to losing a spine player. And he did galaxy brain a bit in the middle of the season, in my opinion, from Palace and Brighton. Absolutely. But the idea that his subs haven't been improved, Leicester, in terms of bringing on Odegaard, like these were
nobody's talking about the subs anymore.
No one is. And I don't understand it, because that was a valid but very good criticism of Mikel that he's improved on. Like, it just seems like, for me, there's been a lot of aspects of his manager career that have improved. He's now becoming a manager. We always knew he was a great head coach. I think a lot of the critiques came at his managerial aspects. And I just believe that the improvement that we've seen off the pitch right now has been managerial. We won't know the level of that until he provides more results, but the consistency in the run speaks to it. So yeah, I'm just very, very happy with Mikel, and I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. And I'm happy for it to wait, but I'm very expectant that by Christmas we should be in a position where people didn't think we would be.
The one thing I will say is that I think the biggest point of everything is that, of course, Mikel still has to deliver us in a position in Europe. I think that he has to, like, period. But if for some reason he were not to, and this is just worst case scenario, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we finished in the top 6. He's going to leave us in a better place. Like, the reality is what he came into and where he would leave at the end of the season, another manager would want to pick this up. You could pass the baton on to another manager and they would want to take this job. You have a talented group of young under 24 players, some in their national team, some are like just basically on the cusp of doing that shit. Like, they really, really are. Like, Lokonga's right there. Tavares is right there. Tierney's already there. Gabriel is showing signs of being like a true leader and an elite center back in the league. So for me, that's one thing that I can say for sure, that even if Mikel didn't make it in terms of, top 6 and they were to get rid of him, we're in a much better place 2.5 years from him, becoming manager than not. Like, and that's something that you really can't deny, but let's talk about you guys, I keep messing up.
It's okay, Jess, don't worry. It's
we'll
okay.
Get through
time.
It's been a long
time. We'll get through this.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. You guys, seriously, it's been such a long day. I should have got coffee. But Edu has been mentioned as somebody that should be looked at as a winner. I think we kind of are a little bit on the edge of this one, aren't we? Because we just kind of talked about how if we had went with some of his signings, do you think that we would have had the same impact? I think it is still a little bit, at least on this podcast, a little bit of he's still on fraud watch for me, like just a little bit, because we still need a striker and a midfielder, and I think I need to see 3 consistent windows at least, but it's almost like you're just not getting in Arteta's way. Is that good enough?
You know,
Like, you know what I
what he
mean? Just
is,
not
Jack?
getting in
Like,
his way?
you
Yeah.
guys tell me if it's wrong, but you know what I describe him as? He's the guy on the group project that didn't do anything, signed his name, but the group got an A, and it was like, okay, well, credit for being present. I don't know if you were a driver in us getting that A. And I just feel you do deserve credit for the contract renewals. Again, people forget, like Balogun and things like that. So I want to be fair, but at the same token, it was well documented that a lot of his transfer targets were in direct opposition to the philosophy that we were going for, more agent-led, differences about, people that we were trying to get away from with Raul and that mentality. And I just don't know if it's fair to say that, Edu, because he's on the recruitment team, was A-OK and backing a lot of the signings that we did, because we saw friction and it was well reported. So I don't think it's unfair to say that he's still on fraud watch.
Yeah, and it wasn't me who said it. It was Matt G. And I just wanted to, you're just literally saying that, like, Arteta went for different signings. And I do think he's running the ship. Like, I really, really do. So there is a lot of like, well, Edu deserves some flowers, but there's also been documentation that's like literally says that he had different ideas. And we don't know if those ideas would have flopped, but the success of what Arteta decided to push for leads me to be like, Edu, I still feel like we can do a little bit better with the director of football, but he's not killing us. Like, so he's not killing us, but
he's a loser. Let's be absolutely real. But I'll get on to when we do losers.
No,
but he's a loser.
I don't think he's a loser. I think it shows a good level of humility if you say, do you know what, I am in charge here, but Arteta, if you want this player...
Well, but he kicked off at Arteta for wanting his signings to cause friction.
But we don't know that, though, do we? That's speculation. We don't know that he kicked off, do we? I mean, ultimately, whether or not
Josh came as soon as that happened, so clearly something happened.
I know, but once again, Sulz, we don't know that. I mean, these are just stories. We don't actually know what happened, but what we do know is that either way, whether Edu is a winner or loser, the right players have been signed. They have proven to be good signings, and Edu is clearly a good communicator, a good schmoozer. He's clearly very good at networking in that respect. So, I'll reserve judgment, but I don't think he's a loser. I don't think he's a winner. I think he still has time to prove many of us right. But ultimately, like Wenger said many years ago, what is a director of football? And if you sign good players and the players are playing well, you've got a good manager and it's good vibes, you're winning games. Who cares, right? Who cares? Who cares who's director of football? As long as Arteta is at the helm and Arteta is deciding who we're signing, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah. My issue with it is every aspect of as a potential positive and like a devil's advocate. Because I'm like you, I try to look at the positive in things, and I look at Balogun, for example. It was well reported that Mikel had a huge say in being able to convince him. And then when you start to look at, maybe the data-driven signings that you would like to say, maybe that was Edu. We revamped the entire department. So, I just don't know how much was him necessarily in fueling. And again, the sales, they were really disappointing. This idea that even Mavropanos or Guendouzi at their lowest point would get loan with options that become obligatory with very easy at a very low transfer value. It's tough. And I understand that there were some roadblocks, and Kedia leaving was not his fault, but it just seemed like as a whole, that entire evaluation of what he should be doing, contracts, sales, buying. Well, you didn't buy the right recruits. I mean, you did, but you wanted somebody different. The sales, we underperformed. And the contracts, you needed somebody else's help to get it over the line. So you get credit for basically staying. You signed your name on the paper. I just don't know if you were the one that made that move. And maybe that's harsh because we have our subjective biases of who we like and who we want to attribute success to. But again, I agree with Yo-Yo. Like, he listened. So,
I'm not giving him credit for doing that. Like,
I mean,
I'm sorry, man.
it might be a group thing. Like, maybe I don't
No,
know.
I'm not
Like,
giving. No. I'm
I
not
just think
giving
you
him
have to
any
wait
of
a
it.
little bit longer.
I feel like if we don't, if we don't actually know, then it's really hard to give a true assessment. That from my perspective, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and I'm not gonna. And it could be a case of like, oh yeah, so he wanted Neto. Edu really wanted Neto, or it could have been a conversation to Arteta saying, "What are you thinking, Ramsdale or Neto?" Because I'm thinking Neto, and Arteta goes, "No, I'm thinking Ramsdale." All right, cool, let's go with the Ramsdale. It could literally just be that. But instead, it's made a thing where Edu wants Neto, Arteta wants Ramsdale. Who's going to win in the goalkeeper wars? It's not like that. Do you know what I mean? It could just be a conversation where they just come to an agreement. Cool, let's go with the Ramsdale. So I don't know. I mean, I'm feeling positive. So right now, anyone who works for the club is doing a wonderful job. Everyone is doing a wonderful job. So
I mean, I'll give him the fact he flipping listened. At least he did that. But I'm not giving him any credit. He's definitely not a winner. Definitely not that.
Joe Willock for 35 million is looking like the
35.
biggest,
It was like
business.
25.
Was it 25?
Yeah, it was like 20
I
million.
get what you're saying, but
Right,
let's be real. There were some
I'm generous.
Arsenal.
So
let's add a sell-on clause. Harry. I think there is a sell-on clause.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
future.
Yeah, include the sell-on clause, guys. Duh. Obviously, that's what I included.
You can't sell Willock. He's our only scorer. Well, he doesn't even start for Newcastle, and they're in the damn relegation zone. So we did bits there. Sorry, love Willock. Glad we sold him. Whatever. It is what it is. But I guess we could probably put all of the new signings kind of in the winner category. I don't think we have to go over Ramsdale and White. We know we can kind of throw them in there because, like Tomiyasu, their transfers were met with a lot of speculation, in particular Ramsdale. And I think we can say without a shadow of a doubt that like he definitely exceeded expectations, wasn't given a chance, and really has made a lot of people look dumb, which is great. So we don't necessarily have to go over them. You already
Man,
kind of
I love Ramsdale. I know, but I just want to hug him. I want to hug him. I want to share a bath with him. I want to massage his back.
Harry's back. I love it.
No, honestly, I remember, Leno really annoyed me a few times last year. And I remember a stream we did with Kevin Campbell, and I said off camera, Leno is really, really, really annoying me. And I was almost, felt like, oh, have I said something wrong? But Ramsdale's coming and he's just giving us exactly what we needed. I'm sure you spoke about it before, but I just want to say how much I love him. And I must say, when his name was mentioned, I wasn't overexcited about it at all. I was probably more on the, I'm not sure about that. But he is a wonderful goalkeeper with a wonderful temperament. I love him. Absolutely love him.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely great, but I think we can move on to the loser category. I do think there are some, even though we're in a positive space, positive headspace, there definitely are some people on maybe on the outs, or maybe we just, I don't know. I want to see what you guys think about this, but I guess I'll get started since you were talking about Ramsdale. Leno has definitely been a loser in this whole thing. I mean, I don't know who needs to hear this, but like Leno, not a bad keeper, but just doesn't fill the requirements for what we need at this moment. He's not bad. He's just not what we need, and seeing him sit there on the bench when we were playing against Spurs and seeing Hansi Flick watch him just sit there was like, wow, buddy, you got to get out of here. You got to go. There's so many good young German goalkeepers. I can easily see him losing that number 3 spot. And I know he doesn't want it. So I'm wondering if he'll leave in January. I really wonder because, I mean, he's a number 1 goalkeeper rotting on the bench and we don't necessarily have Europe. But the whole Leno thing is, I'm so glad that you can see what we were missing. Because even with Martinez, I feel like there's a little bit of fraud watch there too. Because like, is it just like, can he not play in front of crowds? Like, what is it? Like, he was crazy good last season, but not this season. Maybe it's because Aston Villa shit, but.
And he was crazy good with us without crowds. So
there's a bit of that, but I think people misprofiled what Emmy was, and I did say it when we signed Ramsdale. You're getting a far better distributor, but Emmy was really quick with his decision making. I really made a distinction about passing range versus early decisions, and both are good, both are needed. But I think Emmy is that little bit of an in-between to a Ramsdale in potential when you're looking at it. Very similar authority, something that we liked. There were aspects that were a lot different than Leno, but I think with Ramsdale, you see the benefit of having somebody that competent with their feet, that and bipedal, and that able to not only see the pitch early like him, but do all of the things that we love and more, fire it into Aubameyang. How many times has he added that verticality to our buildup? You know, it wasn't just I can play this goalkeeping philosophy. He's added, he's elevated that that level. So yeah, I'm with you. He's a big loser. I have a slightly different one personally, just to keep on brand, you know, because on here I am somebody's hater, and I might as well.
I already know where you're going with this. It's already in the chat. Go ahead.
Pepe, he's my big. There was a chart that was going around in terms of expected assists with, you know, the number of chances that person has generated, and essentially what that graph would tell you is if you were kind of at the bottom of it, you were extremely wasteful with the minimal chances that you were getting. And so for me, Nicolas Pepe, 27 at the end of the season, we said, right? I believe that was correct. I don't want to exaggerate, but 27, still yet to impose himself in over 2 years now. Had an opportunity to, by the way, at the start of the season, because Bukayo came back from England and, you know, didn't take his opportunity again. The same things that we plague him since he's come in. He continues to let you down in general play, and he just doesn't make the right decision. Basically, Nicolas Pepe is that passage of play at Burnley. Great movement, sees Aubameyang, scuffs the pass for the final action, and you're just extremely annoyed with the potential because he's such a talent. Like, Jess, as a coach, I look at Pepe and I'm like, I can fix you. Like, I could turn you around. And it's just very annoying when you look at a squad so devoid of experience, by the way, and we need our experienced players to step up. A big reason for me why this consistent run has happened, by the way, is the emergence of Laka and Oba being really switched on. And I wanted Pepe to give Saka a rest, and we weren't afforded that chance. And it's getting to the point where, as much as you may like him, and maybe we're different on our talent IDs from people, because I've always said he explodes outside the league. He explodes elsewhere, not in the Premier League. But even if you disagree with that, has Nicolas Pepe imposed himself, not even to the degree of his signing of a £72 million player, but is he worth kicking our best player, who's also struggled this season in Bukayo, off of the starting lineup? Is he enough to warrant a starting position, even in his minimal appearances? Not for me. Does he fit maybe what Mikel would want to do in the future? Not for me. When you approach prime age, he's one of the very few players in prime age. You know, are we seeing that experience? We aren't.
But he's not experienced, though, George. Let's be real. He's a late bloomer.
Three seasons in
I don't think
senior football, one league title. Like,
I think age-wise, he seems experienced, but in terms of what he can offer, he doesn't offer experienced level anything to me. He's still raw. Like, he's very much so, for me, the first time I watched him play, I was like, is he 19? Like, literally, he's just somebody that I never felt like we were going to be able to rely upon, because he was still like, you could just lump him in with all of our players where it's kind of like, okay, he's inconsistent because doesn't have the experience and all of that. So age-wise, yeah, I think so. But I think, isn't he known for being like a late bloomer and kind of taking a while to get to and he had like one good season at Lille, really? Like, that was a bad signing, period, you know? And we played so much better when he's not on the pitch. Like,
I'm just annoyed. I want him to show the potential that everyone else of his fans keep saying that they do. Like, I want to be proven wrong with this. I get called a Pepe hater all the time, but factually, I can only evaluate what I see. And at the end of the day, no matter how you slice it, Nicolas Pepe hasn't delivered. Forget the price tag for a moment. I'm talking purely performance. He has not consistently delivered in the shirt. And with a new look defense, with a new team, by the way, this team isn't the same as last season. He hasn't improved when so many other people who did struggle last season have. Aubameyang, Lacazette, you know. So for me, it is a little bit more than just saying he's a late bloomer or he's this or he's that. At some point, you do gotta perform in the shirt, and he just hasn't.
Yeah, there's been a lot of reasons for kind of Pepe's poor form, whether it's mismanagement from Arteta, whether it's signing Willian, whether it's, he needs to play left wing on that right wing, he needs an overlapping right back, or he needs a better right back because Bellerin takes up the space, blah, 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 blah. All of these theories as why Pepe hasn't been good enough. Ultimately, he's just been inconsistent. And whilst you might get more goals and assists than with him starting over Saka, you lose everywhere else. Technical security isn't there. Defensive responsibility isn't there. An awareness of the game, of the stages of the game, of when to pass, when to run, when to hold up the ball. It just isn't there. And I think on this show, a few of us predicted a really big season from Pepe because he finished last season scoring some goals. And I think we assumed he would carry on. Like George said, he was given a chance at the start. In fairness to him, the team was all over the place. So maybe, there wasn't the right foundation for him to impose himself on the game. But now we're playing well and he's still performing inconsistently. Now, don't get me wrong. If Saka gets injured, he could come in, score a goal off the bench, and he takes that confidence in. And then suddenly you've got Pepe kind of, hitting that form how he played against Chelsea in the FA Cup final. You've got that Pepe back. But in all honesty, from a squad perspective, if an offer comes in January, I think you look to sell or you look to loan. I don't think he's a bad egg. I think he stays motivated enough in the squad. I think he's got a good personality about him. There has been a change in his approach and his hunger and desire, but ultimately on the ball, he's just too inconsistent. And and there's nothing wrong with saying that, right? And it's great to be a Pepe fan, but even this past week, I've heard he's got 2 assists this season or something. I'm like, come on, like. What about
one was off of
game?
a corner?
Yeah, but what about the impact in the game? Like, you can't just use stats in that respect. So
but I don't want to write. I don't want to player that has 60% of his chance created from set pieces. By the way,
and you know what I tweeted the other day, or one of those days where he was playing really shit, and I was like, this is one of those games where he'll struggle and have one of these types of performances, luck up with an assist or a lucky goal, and then everybody will say, see. Well, even if he's not playing well, this and that. And I'm like, but 90% of the game, he's just not good enough. And now it's like, okay, well, he needs a run of games. He needs to be playing closer to the goal. He needs to this. When the majority of the new signings come straight in and make an impact, like even Thomas Partey, he took a little bit to adapt, but it was mostly his fitness. Gabriel comes straight in. He had some issues adapting, but now look at him. This is a year after he's been here. Then all of the new signings, all 6 of them, stepped straight in, and they look fine. He was just a bad signing. The issue is mismanagement. He's a quality player, a better experienced manager. Well, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. I get it, Gunner's dad. I get that, but when it's one player, like it's one Guendouzi, it's one Pepe, but everybody else is good and thriving, it's probably just that player. If you saw mismanagement of several different players, Saka wasn't performing well, ESR wasn't performing well, new players came in and they weren't adapting well and they were really struggling, then I think you could make a case for the mismanagement part. I really just don't think Pepe was ever as good as people made him out to seem. I think the compilations have people thinking that he was something that he wasn't. And it was mostly because he was in that French league playing against really bad defenders. He's been found out, he's been exposed, and it is what it is. We play so much better without him.
Look, at the end of the day, you have to make those decisions as a club when things haven't worked and you don't feel that he will be part of the squad in the future. Now, I don't think I would sell him in January. I wouldn't go quite that far, only because he is a goal threat. As much crap as I talked about him, he does offer a final action, something that this squad does lack for the short term. But yeah, in the summer, you have to make a decision on these type of players. We reached this with Lacazette so many times when we didn't sell at the right time. We're never going to get our money back, but why not sell for a player that doesn't fit your future or short term in the summer when you're afforded a chance to get a final third player and reinvest into an asset that will contribute? It just makes zero sense to me to keep a debilitating asset on the bench that won't be a part of your future in place of potentially somebody that could impact your starting 11, let alone a bench signing, which again, we've said, substitutes need to start becoming more important because we're going to have finishers as opposed to those that just start a game. And, look, he can have that function in this season, but if he just continues not to be a part of the plans, then there's no reason why we can't move on and replace him with somebody that can.
Just quickly, I think the only reason why I say, to consider selling him, and I have contradicted myself because I've also said he could play a vital role in the team coming off the bench. But you saw on Watford, when there's a tight lead, Arteta doesn't trust Pepe to bring him on because he knows Pepe will give away the ball, or he just won't be as alert as maybe Martinelli would be. And on Martinelli, we know we're playing less games this year, and there's a lot of players who are starved of minutes. So from my perspective, it's like, well, if Martinelli is going to be next in line to play behind Saka or ESR, and you've also got Odegaard coming off the bench, then, where are Pepe's minutes going to come from? And if he doesn't feature heavily this season or more, his value is certainly going to decrease even more so than it would be in January in comparison to May. You can probably get, 30 odd million for him in January, maybe a little bit more. But if he has the whole season of not playing, then what are you going to get next summer? So that's the only reason why I say it. And almost in reference to Martinelli as well, because we need to make sure he's developing and he's getting some minutes. And at the minute, I feel like Pepe's behind Martinelli as well. So, he's going to struggle for minutes unless there's a big change in form or an injury crisis.
Yeah, for sure. I just don't see the reason to. I think people just, well, why can't he just sit on the bench and just come in on the bench? And I just think that it's a waste of a spot when every single spot matters, and it's fine for now, but it won't be fine forever when he's walking away for free at 29 years old. Like, it just, at that point, you're looking back and you're like, why didn't we sell him? Well, it's because we wanted to keep him around for the bench, But Harry, I have a question for you. We saw a lot of Holding and Chambers and Papa Marie last season, and we haven't really seen them this season. Could they be potentially considered losers? I mean, when you look at the defensive record that we've had since December, that includes them. It includes Papa Marie, Holding, Chambers. They played a big role last season, and this season it seems like they're, kind of in the background. They don't seem upset about it, but considering that they didn't play horribly last season, let's be real, like, our defense was never really our issue. Do you think that they could be slotted into that loser category, or do you think it's just how it goes?
Yeah, listen, I just think it's how it
Because those
goes.
are your people.
Yeah,
Those are
exactly.
your people.
I've got too much respect for Holding and Chambers to call them losers. I think how they carry themselves in the squad is vitally important. You talk about building a team spirit, a togetherness, a positivity. You've only got that if the majority of your squad are on board. We look at Leno's body language right now, and it's someone who's really angry, really upset. And I look at Rob Holding's body language, filming videos of him singing songs with the players and stuff like that. That's what you need. I think we forget that you can't have a squad of 20 world-class players because there'll just be too much competition. You need a good 13, 14 players, and you need, some good pros in and around the team who carry themselves well, who understand the ethics of the club, the values of the club. So I'm not going to put Rob Holding and Chambers in the loser section. More so probably Pablo Mari, because I think, he really struggled this season when he came in. But ultimately, the system is now demanding more of them. And and it doesn't suit a Rob Holding, it doesn't suit a Cadam Chambers or Mari. But I've got huge amounts of respect for Rob Holding and Chambers. I really like them, and if we extend their contracts, I have no qualms about it, because to build a successful team, you need a good squad, and you only get a good squad with a good energy. And players like Rob Holding and Cadam Chambers, are an important part of that, which is why they're still around, and which is why the likes of Mustafi and Socrates aren't around. Because from a mentality perspective, you need players, who buy into the culture, who buy into what the manager's telling them. And I feel like Rob Holding and Chambers fall in that category.
Holding and Chambers are different than Marie, because Marie is just somebody that was just brought in. And I think Cedric and Pablo Marie, you can kind of put in the same category as players that you just often forget about. Cedric, I never think about Cedric. I really don't. That's somebody that I would like to see us move on from. But maybe you can't really categorize them in as losers, but I do think it's a little bit like, they were playing and they were big parts of the team last season, and now they're not really there anymore. But George, did you want to add on to that? Do you think, because we have Kolasinak still there, Cedric, Pablo Marie, they are different than Chambers and Holding, right? Like, if you had to choose who stays and who goes, because some of them are still going to be here. Wouldn't you prefer to move on Pablo Marie and Cedric and them versus Holding and Chambers? Because first of all, they're also help us with our English quota, right?
They're all on my list of sales, and there's people that I would prefer to sell
priority.
First. Yeah, there's people that I would prefer to sell first, but there's still fundamentally part of my sales. Like, look, Callum Chambers, and Rob Holding, they're good characters in the squad. They'll never be to the detriment of some of these other people with Cedric, with Mari, people that I think are foreign spots as well that take up higher wages. I don't think that they need to be sold more urgently, but I do think that we need to move on from both of those, because fundamentally I need to keep the same logic that I do with Pepe, and I don't think that they fit the philosophy going forward, playing a high line. I don't know if Chambers is as technical enough to play that Tomiyasu role. And for me, if I'm in the summer, I am buying another dynamic right back option and moving, Tomiyasu a little bit part of the center back depth, as well as William Saliba coming back. And I do believe that there's more there in terms of fitting our philosophy. So I think they're definitely on the sell block. It's just, I wouldn't call them losers because they don't hurt our squad, but they're not moving the needle in my opinion. So yeah, they're going to be sales in a bloated squad for me. Plus Saliba is homegrown next year. Like in terms of like replacing homegrown with homegrown, I guess you could argue Tomiyasu isn't quite that, but you lose 2, you gain 1, in somebody that fits our philosophy a little bit more. But yeah, there are more other people. Saeed, who I think needs to go. El Neni, last year of their contract. Laka.
Oh, yeah.
There's other foreign people that could definitely be higher on the sell list, but I still categorize them as a sell if I'm trying to move the squad forward.
Kolasinac.
Yeah. Just quickly on Holding,
buddy.
right? Everyone saw the game against, was it Leeds at home in the Carabao Cup or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
And on Twitter, it's like, oh wow, like Rob Holding's learned of Ben White, or Rob Holding's looking a little bit more comfortable on the ball. Rob Holding, there's a bit of a cockdown about Rob Holding in terms of perception is maybe falling the eye a little bit. Rob Holding is not bad on the ball. He's not brilliant, but he's not bad on the ball. He's competent on the ball. He's competent. It just doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as graceful. But he's certainly not to the level of Ben White. But he's not at a detriment. If we are starting Rob Holding tomorrow with Gabriel in this new look Arsenal, I'm personally won't be worried. I'm fully confident in Rob Holding's ability. I think he's he's a solid centre half who is more than adequate on the ball. He's not at Ben White level, but I think perception, and because it looks a little bit clumsy and he's not as graceful, it feels different. But I feel like Rob Holding is a decent enough defender to be in and around the squad.
Would William Saliba as a third choice, and I believe he has potential to be more starting, but you look at a core of 3 center backs right now, and essentially Rob Holding as your bench option versus William Saliba. Who are you having for this new look Arsenal?
Well, of course, we'll go into Saliba, but there's no reason why potentially Rob Holding, can't be a 4th choice CB, or he slots in for Gabriel if Gabriel's out, and I feel like we need 4, right? We're going to need 4 centre halves every year once we're back in European football. So I've got no problem if it's Gabriel, White, Saliba, and Rob Holding. I've got no problem with that at all. I mean, obviously, you might say let's go get a left-footed left centre back, but as we've seen, there's many left-footed centre backs, but they're not all very good. I.e., Mari.
You could put Tomiyasu there, then also you could put Tierney there as well.
Look, guys, all I'm saying is we're not selling Rob Holding, okay?
I'm trying to get rid of Rob Holding as much as possible.
Bellerin can go reluctantly. Xhaka can go. I draw the line at Rob Holding, okay? I've got to draw the line somewhere, right? I need to keep my loyalty.
Look, you know what the issue is for me, guys? Like, fundamentally, you need to recruit people that are going to be under your philosophy, and there's a couple things with Rob Holding that just don't work. High line defending, him in isolation, it's not a fun watch. In terms of his ball playing ability, I think he lags in his decision making, and it's not so much the technique on the pass per se, but I don't think he makes the right decision when to release the ball. Could that be coachable? Potentially, but I think he's 24, 25 right now. He's not like
Rob Holding. He's like 26.
Okay, he's 26. Even worse, in my opinion. When you have that, he needs to be playing for himself, and I just think that we have somebody of greater quality that's younger. And if you're trying to,
that's great. Yeah. So I'm glad we all agree that Rob Holding is going to stay at Arsenal for a long time.
Okay.
Great, cool.
Okay.
Next
all right,
topic.
you guys. So I put out the link, you guys. So if you want to come on and have your say, we'll stay on, for a little bit longer. I do have somebody backstage that I'm going to bring on, but I did put the The link is in the chat box, but it's also pinned in the comments. So don't be afraid. Come on. If you want to talk about your winners, your losers, or just anything, as long as you're appropriate, no abuse, none of that, we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on our first guest, who I think it's Hi, Nipam. How do I say your name?
My name's Nippon.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. What did you want to talk about? I know you said that you had a neutral opinion on what we were talking about. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
because
You have the floor.
I support Arsenal.
I'm sorry?
I said because I don't support Arsenal.
Oh, who do you support then?
Don't kill me. Chelsea.
Of course.
No, that's okay.
Of course.
That's all right.
Hey, come on. At least it's not Tottenham.
I mean, there's
But-
always so many Chelsea fans in the chat box, so I could have probably guessed that. But go ahead. If you have an opinion, we're happy to hear it.
It's about Rob Holding, right?
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Personally, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd want to get rid. He's not good enough.
Oh.
I thought we moved on. No, you're right.
Oh. Well, I mean, you can't move on from everybody right away. And we have been trying to move him on slightly, but you have to keep some people around. And I don't think he's like an immediate danger to our team. I get that. But you're also a Chelsea fan, so you're used to having world-class players sitting on your bench. It's a little bit different at Arsenal, where we have a little bit of a slower rebuild. But let me ask you this. What do you think about how Arsenal are doing at the moment? You know, you guys have Thomas Tuchel, you're top of the league, but we're not that far behind you considering, you
Yeah,
know,
Only
the
6 points.
levels.
They're only 6 points behind us.
Yeah.
And I've been telling a lot of people in my friend circle who support Chelsea, saying we can't be complacent. Arsenal are catching up.
Seriously?
You're only 6 points behind us in the table.
Yeah, we're definitely not that far away. All I'm saying is that, like, you guys are ahead, but there's some other teams up there that are trying to push for that spot too. So you definitely can't be complacent. But I have you guys finishing first in the league. I think George has you guys a little bit further down.
Second.
Sulz has you guys a little bit further down. It's up in the air. It's up in the air to see who could actually win the title. But do you think that you guys will continue on in the Champions League as well? Like, where do you see the chips kind of falling for you guys this season?
I do not see us retaining the Champions League. I think we're going to push a run, like maybe to the quarters or the semis. And I think eventually we'll just fall at the final hurdle.
Oh man, you're like the first Chelsea fan I've ever spoken to that doesn't say that you guys are going to win every trophy ever.
Look, I'm
different.
a realist.
I love that. Well, Nipham, we have some other people that want to come on. Thank you so much for having your say, and we'll see you in a little bit, okay?
Yeah, I really have to call in more often.
Yeah. When we have the links out, definitely come on and have your say, okay? Thank you so much.
Speak to you soon.
All right, bye.
Cheers, buddy.
All right, George on the big screen. We're going to bring in, King Sages. Oh, no, there he is. Hey, how
There
are
we
you?
go. Put him front and center. There we go.
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good, can't complain. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I would like to talk about Arsenal. Obviously, I think Arsenal got a lot of critics during the summer by pundits, especially on Sky Sports, where they were saying nobody knows what Arsenal are doing. And for me, I think that was just very BS. You know, we have to be honest. Yeah, sure, you can say that nobody knew if the players were good enough, but there was a clear plan, and the plan was to bring in young players with a certain mentality that could develop and suit the way Arteta wants his team to be built up. I mean, I don't think you need a FIFA badge to see that. And so for me, when they were criticizing Arsenal for that, I just think it was, media bias, as I call it.
Are you an Arsenal fan or no?
Yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan.
Yeah. Okay.
I've supported Arsenal probably 25 years.
That's longer
So,
than Souls has been alive, by the
oh,
way.
you see, oh, now you make me feel old.
Oh yeah, I'm the youngest here.
No, but yeah, but for you, who's been the most impressive signing so far throughout the
By
season?
far, Aaron Ramsdale. And I'm going to tell you why I feel like it's Aaron Ramsdale. Because I was one of them, hold my hands up. I didn't think it was the right signing. I wanted to see Onana. I thought the way we wanted to play, we needed someone who's good in distribution, someone who's good in the air, and someone who could dictate the backline. And Ramsdale surprisingly have done all of that better on a level that I never expected. Honestly, he's been fantastic. His mentality, his passion. Oh my God. That's the kind of player you want at Arsenal. He's happy and proud to wear that shirt. And that's the kind of players I can get behind. So even if he makes a mistake, even if his form dips, I know that he has the mentality to get it back. And that's why I've been so impressed with him. Fans were onto him, DMing him, cushing him out. I mean, to show that courage that he's shown, it's impressive, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, obviously the skill set is something that we really like about him, but the mentality is super important. And some people are like, the soft factors of mentality and having a connection with the fans don't matter. But I think for Arsenal, because we felt so disconnected from the team for a long time, it is important, so I hear you there. I mean, like the words is like I was like, oh, little tear, I love him too. So yeah, I'm going to keep you on for a sec because we have some more people. If you don't mind, you don't have to go. We're
Oh,
going to
that's
bring
nice.
in
Yeah.
Nashville.
Oh.
Nashville, where'd you go?
Where'd he go?
I don't know. We're going to bring in Banksy. Hey, Banky. Nashville, where'd you go?
Hey,
I can hear
hey
myself.
guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Banky. What's going on?
What's poppin', peoples?
Hey, bro.
We're good.
You all
We're
right?
good. Yeah, we're just talking Arsenal. I would bring a couple people on, but we haven't seen you in a while. How you been feeling since we
I
made the
know, I
turnaround?
know. I've been absorbing the positive energy that's been going on in the club lately.
Banky, do me a favor. Can you the stream? Can you turn it down because I
I
can
just
hear
did.
myself?
I just did. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry
Okay.
about that. Can you guys hear
Yeah.
me properly now? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Banky. So,
Yes, I said
how you been feeling?
I've just been absorbing the energy and just trying to keep my excitement over the last couple of weeks, really. And obviously I've been watching. I've just not had the time to come in as I usually used to be, actually. So yeah, but I've been following on the conversation tonight. Brilliant perspective from all you guys as usual. Well done on your 5,000 subscribers as well. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Good job. We're proud of you. Also, obviously, just to give my own 2 cents about the season so far, there's quite a few things that I've actually noticed on the back of the, resurgence, let's put it that way, in the last couple of weeks. And obviously, in comparison to how things were prior to the Norwich game when we had 3 losses on the bounce. The narrative has changed. We're all excited. We're all happy. It's great. It's amazing. It feels good. And we all have a right to be excited, as we were saying. Rival fans will want to poke and dig at us and say, "Oh, we are," whatever they say. I don't care. But also, one thing I also appreciate about this channel is we're always very, very objective. Even in our excitement, we're very realistic, which is good. So, one thing I particularly want to say, which impressed me a lot, is the feeling I've had, especially on the back of watching Mikel's. I don't know if you guys saw the interview when he had
with Amy Lawrence.
It just made me reconnect back to the reason why I love this club and the reason why I backed Mikel up until obviously those 3 games when I kind of like just like everybody else, I kind of like shifted in my opinion a little bit. But yeah, we all, the way he talks about the club, the way he carries himself, the way he articulates himself, the vision he has for the club, and to see it come to fruition really and see that, okay, he actually had a plan. Not like we didn't want him or we didn't know that he knew what he was doing. But obviously, he was learning on the job, and things look to be falling into place now. Like Tomiyasu, Tavares, Ben White. For me, these guys have shown me something to believe in as a fan, and I'm absolutely buzzing right now. But at the same time, just like Jess said, I'm waiting till maybe December. Let's see what's up by January. Let's see how we get through the like the peak times in December. Obviously, the Liverpool game, everybody, I'm of the opinion that we can even beat Liverpool if you ride on the wave of how we're playing right now. So I'm not of that narrative that, if Liverpool beats us, it's fine. No, we can beat them. We can stand toe to toe to them. We can actually show our personality. So I'm looking forward to that, and by the end of the season, I'll be able to make my own correct judgment about the team. I want. You always know I'm an Arteta in any way. So we'll top 5 looks good. It sounds good at the minute.
Yeah.
I'm not getting carried away, but at the same time, it's amazing. It's good. Let's keep the positive energy going. And one other thing that I actually made a list here of things I wanted to say. Sorry. So I'm not gonna. I'll just 2 minutes. So on Pepe. But you know how I am about personality and how you carry yourself and how you play football. And I don't think he carries that as an Arsenal. I don't think he has the Arsenal DNA in him. You have to play with swag and personality. And I saw that in highlights when we signed him. I didn't know much about him from League One, but I went to see his highlights and I saw that he could play freely. I don't know if it's down to this understanding of the Premier League or he doesn't have the charisma to actually play in the league, or maybe he's Arteta. He's playing to his structures too much. He's not free to express himself. But I think if in the next sort of couple of windows he will go, I think so. Yeah. And for us, as for winners and losers, I would just say this: I don't like the word losers.
Nobody likes it, but I don't have another like.
I'm just gonna put that out there. Let's change the narrative. Let's not do winners and losers.
If somebody can think of different words to use,
let's
I
make
will
a different word. So because our players are doing well right now, even the ones that are not doing, the energy is good. The energy is good. I see the synergy. I see people that are not even playing on the bench and they're cheering on the ones that are playing. So for me, there's no loser. We're gonna find another word, but I'll leave it here for now, so I know somebody else can come in.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Banky. Thank you so much for coming on. And Kingsay, thank you for coming on as well. And we'll see you in the comments. Bye, guys.
See you. Yeah, bye.
Bye. All right, we're going to bring in Ginge. Hey, Ginge, how are you?
Oh, hi. I wasn't expecting that.
I know, we brought you in all quick. And
yeah, I was nearly falling asleep then.
I know, but Banky is our resident just positivity guy. So when he starts talking, we just kind of let him do his thing, and he just kind of brightens things up for us. But yeah, are you gonna keep the mood bright, or are you gonna?
Oh yeah, I'm a deluded Arsenal fan. I always have been. And if you're not a deluded Arsenal fan, you're not a fan of you. I mean, every season I think we're going to win league. So,
I love that.
But I grew up in the Invincible area. So I was at school when I wouldn't want to be at school now with Arsenal, but when I was at school when I could actually give it to the Man U fans and stuff like that. So that was good. I want to say Ramsdale.
Jen, can you give me a winner and a loser, or a winner and a needs improvement?
Needs improvement. Martinelli needs improvement. I don't understand the hype on him. I think he's a very good. He's obviously talented. He's a bit like Guendouzi. He's talented, but he's just he's so frustrating. That last game, he's just when he was in the cup game, he just trying too hard, I think. And I think that was a big problem with Guendouzi as well when he was on the pitch. He just seemed like he was just trying to do too much, trying to be the main man when he was doing it. So I think that's a bit of Martinelli's fault. I think he just needs to chill out a bit and kind of just enjoy his football rather than just going out and wanting to be the main man, just play for the team so. But the winner's got to be Ramsdale. He's brilliant. I knew he was going to be good. I don't know why everyone was all critical, because David Seaman himself said he was going to be brilliant. And if anybody's going to be an expert when it comes to goalkeeping, why did they not just listen to David Seaman? I don't know why they were listening to all these other experts so-called experts, social media. David Seaman is like, he is the GOAT of, there was only one other keeper better than him at the time, or equal to him at the time. And if he's going to tell me he's a good keeper, even the keepers he was playing with at Bournemouth was telling it, this guy is going to be good. He's going to be top class. I don't know anyone listening to him. I don't know why, So he's got to be the winner for me.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I think we pretty much agreed with you on that. I liked your perspective on Martinelli. I do think that when Aubameyang goes to AFCON, he'll get more opportunities and then maybe he'll be able to relax. I think he's just desperate to show his worth, and you can't really blame him for that, but he does need to make more out of the chances that he gets. So we'll definitely see what happens there.
Do you want a player in the team though? He could have all the talent in the world, but if he's not willing to fight for that place and he's not willing to wait, he's only young. I mean, someone just needs to tell him, because there's rumours today about that he wants to go because he's not getting time and stuff like that.
I wouldn't listen to any of that stuff. I wouldn't listen
lazy
to any of that
media
stuff.
for me. It happens every time. Because we're winning, they have to change the narrative for Martinelli, though. They have to do something. It's like Arsenal winning, so they can't blame squad unity or there's no harmony in the dressing room. So they're looking at, Martinelli hasn't played in a while, so let's just throw that into the mix. It's always something.
Exactly. I mean, who do you drop for him?
I think it's a fair point that you're. I think it's a fair point that you're saying that he's trying a little bit too hard. He's probably just, so eager to impress. And let's be honest, he's been starved of minutes recently. So when he comes on, he's probably, trying to make a change to the game when sometimes it's not set up for that. But there's still a lot of football to be played.
Exactly.
I do agree with you to a certain extent that he might be overhyped, but I think that's just simply because when he played, he did so well, and then we haven't really seen a lot of him. So I just think it's that he overperformed or he exceeded expectations, and now we want that to continue. But like you say, he's still young, but I think he's got a real bright future ahead of him. I just think his development might be a little bit different to a Saka or an ESR, and it might be a little bit more gradual than just to expose him to the first team straight away.
I think we saw him too soon. I think he came into the squad. I don't think he were bought for the future, and because we used him at the time, and he was so good. People, thought he was further on in his development than he was. Whereas really, let's be honest, if he didn't have had that performance, if he'd have had an okay performance at the time, or he didn't do as well as he did, we probably would. Nobody would be questioning why he's not being played. He would be still in that development. He'd still be, playing for under 23s or whatever, but might just get an odd bit time here and there. He was only bought for was it a few million?
I think the big thing is I never look at youth development as being linear, and I never look at it as being consistent with players. And there's going to be peaks and troughs with youngsters, and I just think this season to date, if you're being objective, he hasn't taken the opportunities that have been afforded to him. I don't think I lower my expectation of what he could be because I've seen him in spurts, but I think we just as fans need to be comfortable with us being good. We're going to have good players on the bench that need to fight for their space and perform on the pitch, and you will get your opportunity to do that. But if you don't do it, you're going to have to sit there, and it's no issue because, again, he's so young that for me, it's fine. He's going to have these peaks and troughs.
Exactly.
It's just youth development.
He just needs to be patient with him, that's all. I think that's the same with Arteta as well. I think my thing on Arteta, I've liked him from the start. I think he's very good. I think he actually does care about the club. I think he has actually got the club's best interest at heart. I don't always think like when Mourinho goes in, I'd never think he's got the best interest of the club. He's a bit of a merchant, if you know what I mean. He's a bit of a glory hunter. He's not bothered about the club itself. Whereas I think Arteta is bothered about the club, and I think everyone who's grown up supporting Arsenal, we have been this sort of club that is more than just the football. We've always been quite an ethical club and stuff like that, and the classy team. That's why we've not been bought out by these billionaires and spending loads and loads of money, because that's never been the Arsenal way. Everyone that's calling out for loads of money to be spent, that's never been the Arsenal's way. We've always we have spent money in the past, but it's not. I can't remember spending, going out spending loads of money and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
That's a
and-
fair point. I do want to get Vigilante's thoughts on this as well, because he's been sitting here for a while and hasn't gotten a chance to say anything. But did you want to well, thank you, first of all, thank you for being here. Did you want to add on? Oh, thank you. Did you
Do you know what?
did you want to add on that point, or just talk about something else? It's fine, whatever you want.
Do you know what? Thanks for having me, guys. I'm James, by the way, not Vigilante. That's the name of my business. By the way, do you know what? When you got me on, I thought I was using my cam as a camera, as a mirror. Sorry, because I was doing my hair and all sorts. I didn't
Yeah, we
realize I
saw
was
you doing
actually
it.
live. I do apologize about that. But anyway, it's great to be on the show. Thank you for having me. I do think we're in a good place at the moment, being an Arsenal fan throughout from the 80s and stuff. So basically, I think we're doing really well. We've gone on a nice little run now. The Liverpool game's always going to be tough. I don't think anyone's expecting any less, any more from that game, because they're just at the best point they can possibly be at this point, and Arsenal's just starting to go from level to level. So it's not a good time to kind of go into the Liverpool game and expect too much from it, because it's never going to really happen like that. All we can really expect is putting the best we can into the game and making sure that we can come out of it with something if we can. But as long as the performance is half decent, then you can't really moan about it. No one can come out and say, "Oh, we want Arteta out," because he's just had a 10-game unbeaten run. So for me, I think he's done enough to sort of prove that he's capable of having this job long term for the meantime, at least for the foreseeable future. And then if the run changes and he starts losing games, but at the moment all the players are playing for him, so you can't really say anything against that.
Yeah.
So I don't see what people are moaning. I play football myself, and I understand all of what the players and stuff go through, because I play football myself. So it's just how it is. You just got to live with what we're doing at the moment and kind of ride the wave with it, to be honest.
I love that. Just kind of live in the moment, be excited for what you're seeing, but don't let your expectations go out of control.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's kind of the space that most of us kind of live in. We do kind of span between a lot of positivity to me being a little bit more on the negative side sometimes, but ultimately we all are excited about what Arsenal's doing at the moment. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, James. Really
All right.
appreciate it.
Thanks guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, buddy.
All right, you guys. That's the end of the show. Thank you guys so much. There's about 143 of you guys watching on all platforms. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow, some point tomorrow, to talk about Josh Kroenke's interview, as well as Arteta's interview with Amy Lawrence and the Wenger documentary, that whole thing. We'll talk about some of the clips that have come out from that and do a little bit of a deep dive into that stuff. A little bit different than game talk, a little bit more about what's going on around the club. And we'll talk about whether or not we think we're actually moving in a good direction in terms of, the Kroenkes and stuff. There's a lot of conversations around the Kroenkes today. And are they the same Kroenkes that we hated a couple of years ago? Whatever. But yep, make sure that you guys like that video, subscribe to the channel, do all those great and wonderful things, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.